Hello everyone, it's Mike Lazard here. Welcome back to the channel, and I want to thank you guys for helping me reach 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. This is not a size that I would have ever expected to grow if you asked me when I first started posting videos. Um, this ministry really has given me a lot in my life, and a lot of blessings have come out of it. Not just for me, but for a lot of people around not just the United States, but around the world. And a lot of that growth has come from just support and a lot of encouragement over the last 5 years. And I just want to, in this video, offer a lot of my gratitude and reflect on my story that has come out of this platform over the last 5 years. So, in sharing my reflections, I hope that there's some things and some lessons I've learned that you can learn from, and um, I just want to share, this gratitude. And sometimes you just have to hear, you know, the blessings and the stories that have come out of a project like this to really understand the gravity of it. So I'll start from like where I started music. Since I was a kid, I've always had a knack for singing. My parents would tell me I started singing at 9 months old. Before I could even start speaking. I don't know if they have video evidence of this, but that's just the story that was told. And I've always really had a strong ear and a pretty solid voice, as a young kid. But I really started taking music seriously around 11. Our dad bought us a piano. I started taking voice lessons. Started playing saxophone and cello. Really, there was a lot of music stuff that I got involved in. And um, I didn't know how much of I guess, part of my life that music would take up at the time. I like singing. Piano was fun for me. Saxophone was fun. I enjoyed band. I enjoyed hanging out with some of my friends in band. Orchestra, for the years that I did do it, I haven't kept up with it, but I enjoyed it. It was something that I felt was fun, and I didn't take too seriously. But what I noticed was, at the same time at 11, I started learning Byzantine chant. My father, I'd say he's probably the best chanter in the Arab world, but that's my opinion, of course. And he's also a busy man. So, he doesn't have as much documentation out there as some of the other Arab chanters. But I think if you want someone who is as talented and sensitive as him, you'd be hard pressed to find someone like that. So, with that being said, I had a very good teacher and mentor for my entire childhood and early adult life, and started learning at 11. But really around like 13, all the ideas of notation that I was learning, you know, started to solidify. And I'd say around 14, everything really just clicked. And I'd say my growth was exponential. Um, you know, I started trying to teach myself Arabic and Greek. I ended up taking classes in both of them because, you should learn from an actual teacher, when you want to learn some languages. But, I ended up learning how to read Greek, learning how to speak some Greek, Arabic, learning how to read and write Arabic. My homie spoke some Arabic too. So, but, really started focusing on it. And then at 15, I really got focused. I really focused on learning a lot of Greek repertoire. Um, I think really that is what helped me out. Listening to recordings, trying to emulate attractions, and trying to figure out the science of what works and what doesn't work. And I'd say probably between the ages of 15 to 18, I was practicing 2 to 3 hours of Byzantine chant a day. Um, it was like nonstop. If whatever I could get my hands on, I would learn it. I would figure out all the theory I could think about. And even at 17, my father wanted to take some Byzantine composition lessons. I joined him, and really that was one of the best decisions I could have ever made in my life was to study Byzantine composition. And for me, that really, I found that I really have a passion for writing music, and I have a mind that's built for it too. Um, it's not something I have to work hard to do. I mean, of course, you have to think about ideas, but I guess composition just started to come naturally to me. Of course, you have to learn the theory, you have to learn the technique, you have to learn orthography and Byzantine music, but the way of thinking really suited how my mind worked. Even when I was as a kid and as a teen, I used to, write poems and you might find it funny, but I used to write rap songs and make beats and those exist somewhere on YouTube in a privated channel that you won't find. But this is something that I really always liked, but I've really tapped into, right when I was turning into an adult. So at the same time, I've always loved science, and since I was a kid, I've always wanted to be a doctor. So, my plan in school was graduate high school, either graduate high school a year early, or dual enroll and get a bunch of college credits, and then do pre-med in 2 years, and then become an attending physician at like 24 or 25. And I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. What type of 15-year-old kid who's 6'4" doesn't want to be an orthopedic surgeon? But there's some med school programs that offered 3-year med schools. Maybe I wouldn't be 25, but I'd maybe attending physician at 28. I said the wrong number there, but the idea is the same. It's like I had this idea and I really wanted to pursue it. And sometimes, God just puts a barrier in front of you. And I think for me, the barrier in front of me was COVID. My senior year of high school, I signed up to take, all AP classes and stuff, but I never did that. What I ended up doing was cutting all of my high school classes except for like AP Spanish, and basically maxing out my credit hours at the community college near me. And I ended up graduating high school with like over 70 college credits. So it's kind of funny. I finished high school with an associate's degree before I even got my high school diploma. I also got my Byzantine Chant certificate from Holy Cross, and I think I was the youngest person to do it. I got the highest score you could have gotten on it, so they didn't just give it to me out of pity. I worked hard for that, and I'm telling you this just to show you that this is something that I really am passionate about, and something that I've really taken a lot of care into learning. So, I'm telling you that my original plan was to go to college and finish it in 2 years and then go to medical school. And of course, what do I do with this music? I've been, at the start of COVID, I started posting some of my lectures that I was, giving to people at my church. And that's really how my channel started to grow. And, by December of 2021, my channel had, I think, 100 subscribers. In 6 months of posting lectures and videos and Byzantine music, it took 6 months to get 100 subscribers. And for me, 100 was a lot. That was like 100 people want to hear what I have to teach. It means a lot to me, and I felt really privileged with that platform. But the channel started really taking off, and beginning of 2021, and this is the same time I was interviewing for universities. And the one university local to me, they have an honors program, and of course I applied because they have good scholarships. And it turns out the interviewer I got was a Orthodox Christian. And on my application I put, I teach Byzantine Chant. I have a YouTube channel and a website that I made for teaching Byzantine Chant. Shout out to my godfather and uncle. He helped me set up that website. And my interviewer just had me an Orthodox Christian, and she was able to fully understand the depth of the work I was doing. And I feel like if I had anyone else do that interview, they wouldn't have understood this project. To make a long story short, she gave me an extremely high grade on my interview, and I ended up getting a full tuition scholarship to that university, which is where I ended up going. Now, just to take a step back, why did I want to make college only 2 years? In the back of my head, I had this idea that I don't want to take out loans for college, and I want to minimize my loans for med school. So if I find a 2-year program for university, and then I'll have a bit more money saved up for med school. That way I won't have to eat really into my college savings so much. But this full tuition scholarship gave me a an idea that I was like, I don't need to only spend 2 years here. I can enjoy 4 years here. The problem is I had so many credits that I can't do 2 years because it's not 4 years, because I don't have enough coursework in biology. So, this is something I was talking to my parents about, and I was like, hey, the university I got into has a very strong music program, and they have a music composition a concentration as well. So I ended up applying for the music program. I got in as a piano major, which is what I wanted. Although my singing is my forte, I said piano is better for composition. And my goodness, was that a worthwhile decision? That was probably the best decision I've made in the last 5 years, was to study piano and music composition in college. And just to tell you, like, this channel first opened an opportunity for me to pursue music education, and in higher ed. And for me, this was really, I felt, was the start of my development as a musician and a person. Was going from someone who had a good voice and knew his theory to someone who was able to make music. And I can't recommend. I want to make a separate video on this, because it's its own topic. But I cannot recommend, if you want to be a serious musician, pursuing higher education in music. There's a lot of talking points about college is a scam, or you shouldn't go to college, or I didn't go to college, I'm successful. Musicians who don't go to college or do not pursue higher education in music are not serious most of the time. There are prodigies out there, but most of the time are not serious or talented people. They're just kind of average, and they don't invest in their talents enough, and their talents never flourish. Now, some people, they want to pursue higher education, business and music, and they end up going to Greece and studying under experts. That's a different story, because maybe your bachelor's was in something else, but then you end up pursuing a master's or something like that in Byzantine music. That's a higher education in Byzantine music. For me, I chose my higher education in Western classical music, but the principles I learned there really affected my chanting. So I really, if you are a young person who wants to take music seriously and wants music to be part of their life and career, by all means, maybe do a double major. It might take an extra year or two, but if you really want to, at least invest in a music minor or something. I promise it'll be worth it. So anyway, starting university, I think I pumped out like 250 videos. I pumped out a lot of videos before I started college, because I was like, I'm not gonna have enough time. I'm not gonna have my filming set up at college, so I'm gonna really make sure I pump out all this content. And it kind of just sat there. But a lot of the videos I made, the fundamental teaching videos that I made, during that time, were really staples of the channel that I felt have always had consistent viewership and engagement with the community. And not that you make videos for engagement and viewership, but it just shows that I guess that burst there really made an impact. But anyway, I'll try to make this video less than half an hour. It's a lot. But starting college, it was like, I remember going to to classes and realizing, like, this is a ton. First, like, biology and chemistry. I mean, it's not an easy major by any means. I don't know what you guys know about the hard sciences, but this is not like, I go to class, pay attention. Like, you have to go to class and go to lab and study hard. And then not even to mention about the extracurriculars you have to do as an upperclassman, like research and going to conferences and giving talks. Like, that's its own battle. But the hard thing with music that I ran into was just the practice load. I remember getting a packet like this thick of music I need to learn for the semester, and I was like, what? Like, this is so much music. I have to learn 6 accompaniments, and I also have to learn my own solo rep, and I also have to practice piano. I also have to pass piano for proficiency, which for me was like, oh, I'm a piano major, so I should pass it. But it's just a lot of extra work that you have to do. And I remember it was like, I didn't have a good or efficient practice regimen. It took me a long time to figure that out. It really took me until like sophomore, spring, junior, fall that I finally found a good rhythm. But it was just like, I am overwhelmed. It's just so much to do. And really, my Byzantine music, whatever practice I was bringing to that, ended up switching to piano. And really, this intense practice, 2 hours a day for the last 4 years, really was transformative. And I had an amazing teacher. I don't even know how she ended at my university. She's just So I know she works in the community, and her husband are extremely high level musicians, and um, she told me, a lot of the work was like kind of pro bono, not a lot of pay, but it's for the betterment of the music community in the area that she was working in, and I um, extremely humbled and grateful to be able to learn in her studio. But she really um, pushed me to and challenged me to learn about what do I want to express musically, my music, and how do I express it. How do I think about music, and that is something that I really could not have paid anyone or anything to learn. It really took someone who pushed me to find it within myself, and that's something that you really can't substitute. Having someone push you to find out what you want to express in your music, and once you find that, it's like, isn't that the end game? And for me, that was something that was invaluable. Um, so that being said, um, the problem, of course, I was busy. If you looked at my sleep schedule, it was kind of horrible. It was like sleep at 2, wake up for 8 a.m. classes, and then take an hour nap in the afternoon so I could have enough energy to work until 2. Then it was a horrible sleep schedule. I'm not going to deny that. But the problem I really ran into was junior year when I was preparing for my MCAT. It's like the medical school placement exam. And the problem I ran into was I need to study for the MCAT, but I have to keep practicing piano because I have this repertoire. And the problem I ran into was, I love music and I love science and medicine. Is there really a way to reconcile this? And fortunately, I had good mentors and good people to talk me through it. And I think what I realized is that the way that these two, I guess, interests align is through the field of otolaryngology, which is kind of what I want to pursue. It's the medicine of the head and neck. Surgery on the vocal cords, the ears, and a lot of the parts of the body that have to do with how you perceive and create music, and of course through some shadowing, and just research on the field, I realized like this is where I should probably look to join as a physician, and that just it clicked in my head. I was like, this is what I should do, and really like some of the advice I got when I was applying for medical school was, don't tell people about what specialty you want to do. Maybe say something like, rural primary care, because that means that you're a service-oriented person who doesn't care about money. And for me, it's like, well, I don't care about money to begin with. I want to do what I want to do. I'm not going to lie about what I want to do, what I don't want to do. And in my application, I was adamant about, how I found that medicine is the right field for me, because I found that there was a way to pursue a career that fit my passion for science and desire to help people through medicine, my passion in music, and also my special talent for, I've always had a knack for diagnosing vocal problems and hearing why people sound the way they do and how they can fix it. That's just something that I've always, it's a talent I've always had. And then also with my studies in anatomy and physiology, and I was just like, this is the perfect intersection. And when I was applying for medical school and doing applications, I'd say about every conversation, every interview I had, music always came up. It was always, why medicine if you did music? And for me, it was just like, I know why. This is why. I feel like, what is your purpose in life? And for me, I feel like the purpose in my life at this moment that I feel that God has revealed is to combine these and become a physician that helps out musicians and singers, and fields like otolaryngology allow me to do that at the highest level possible. Not just that, but also gives me the opportunity to teach people about their voice, or teach other physicians about vocalists and what they have to go through and what they should learn if they're going to teach musicians. And I feel, of course, I have a long journey ahead of me, at least another 10 years. But I at least feel that, God has put me in a place where I can really pursue that. I'm currently at a top 30 medical school in the country. It's if you're applying for residencies that are competitive, you really should be in a place that offers a lot of resources and support. And I'm very thankful that I had that, that I have it right now. So maybe in the next couple of years, you might see a couple more videos talking about kind of medical problems with the voice and kind of explaining them and not dumbing it down, but boiling it down to the core ideas and how, if you are a vocalist, if you run into problems, how do you address them? Who should you go see, and what treatments should you consider, or would a doctor recommend that you consider? So, I guess with all that being said, this channel has not only allowed me to pursue higher education. I have my bachelor's of arts in music composition. It has also allowed me to go to a medical school that will give me the opportunity to pursue a field that I believe I'm called to pursue. And that's just the whole story for me. Is this is a channel that I really was passionate about giving, and I didn't really care about getting paid for the content I was giving. I was like, this is stuff that I'm so passionate about. People should know this, because if they don't know it, they're gonna either hurt their voice, or they're going to do music, the music that I'm teaching Byzantine chant, a disservice. Even I felt like there were some teachers who were teaching stuff that I don't really agree with. Even now, on YouTube especially, everyone has a voice now, but people, just say whatever they want, and maybe they're uninformed, maybe they're a bit more ignorant. I felt that this is a platform that I think God has given me to give ideas that I think are helpful for musicians, and help musicians figure out, whatever path they're on, what is good for them. And of course, this is not a be-all end-all channel. I recommend, listen to other people, but I just felt that this is a platform that I can really talk about ideas I'm extremely passionate about, and it's something that I'm eternally grateful for. So, with that being said, some projects, coming forward that I want to start doing a bit more. I really want to talk about, some vocal health and vocal pathologies, and kind of give the science behind why this happens, and what you can do to fix it. I want to talk also about philosophy and music. How do you go about thinking about music that transforms your ideas? Vocal technique. Common problems that you can run into. But then, I want to, theory, Byzantine theory. You can find those in any textbook, and there are plenty of people teaching Byzantine theory. But the things that I think are really being neglected in Byzantine chant education, singing technique, and musicianship or musicality, because people, they get so hyper fixated on theory and knowing what you're supposed to know, but they never focus on how can I become the best chanter I can be. Because if you're, this is actually a small tangent, but I've always noticed, and this is something that not coming from me, but one of my mentors was, the best chanters with the best voices are not interested in learning chant, and the chanters who are not so talented are interested in learning. What happens is that the people who are really talented oftentimes get frustrated with the process of learning, and the people who are not so talented have to really put in a lot of work to get up to speed. What I'm telling you is that when you learn singing technique, when you learn musicality, even if your talent level, maybe it's like 5 or 6 out of 10. If you're 1 or 2 out of 10, it's, maybe you shouldn't pursue music, maybe, or singing, maybe a different type of music. But if you're someone who's average talent, but puts in a lot of work and a lot of dedication, you can become a very, very solid musician. If you're someone who's talent, a very strong voice, a very good ear, it's like a 9 or a 10, but you don't put in the work to get better, unfortunately, you're going to get gapped by everyone who's putting in work. So with that being said, I just want to give you guys encouragement, whether you're someone who is talented, I guess, in the sense that, you've always been a good singer, or somebody who is interested in learning Byzantine music and is an alright singer, I really want you guys to just stay the course, if you're someone who's a young adult, or, an adolescent in high school that wants to think about pursuing a career in music, I highly recommend, investigating, at least going to university, even if you don't want to do music as a career, going to a university with a strong music program, because I think you'd find a lot of benefit in that. So, that being said, I just want to thank you guys for again for helping me reach 5,000 subscribers. And I hope this video just, talked about some of the blessings that this channel has given me and guidance of my life and the opportunities that it's opened up. And I just want to share that so you guys can participate, I guess, in joining me in thanksgiving to God for this channel. So that being said, hope you found the video interesting. If you're not subscribed, I'd appreciate if you did like and subscribe, but at 5K subscribers, it's just marginal at that, but I promise that there'll be some more interesting videos talking about some of the topics I talked about before. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.